Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. LSU and UCLA Saturday afternoon inside Tiger Stadium, 34-17 was the final. I know a ton's been made of the heat and the attendance and all that kind of stuff. Matt's got a column up at LouisianaSports.net talking about the attendance. And I'll tell you, inside the stadium, it was a little weird because the shaded side, the west side, was full. I mean, full. And then the sun side on the east was empty. I mean, some people tried to tough it out in the first half, but everybody went under for halftime, and then very few resurfaced for the second half. It was purely it was a sun issue. It was just too hot to stay on that side of the stadium. And because of that, it just did not feel like a big football game. You had LSU and UCLA, a national brand from a power conference, come in for the first time ever, and you had a tie game at halftime, and it did not feel at all like a big game. It felt more like a spring game than a real regular season game.
We just need to get like a sun visor we can put up on the west side of the stadium.
Or just tell ESPN to fly a kite. We're playing at 7 o'clock.
Well, yeah.
But I don't fault the folks that left. Like, it is what it is. It was very, very hot, and there's just not a lot of relief you can get sitting in those metal bleachers when it's 94 outside and the real feels 105 and the wind's not blowing and you're just a sitting duck. It is what it is. I get it. And it does take away from the environment of the game. But that's not really the big story. I think for me, I can't recall a game that was more different half to half than this one. In the first half, the score was tied 17-17. Total yards was 210 to 206. First downs were 12 to 10. Third downs, UCLA was 4 out of 7. LSU was 3 out of 6. Average yards per play were within a yard. Time of possession was within 3 minutes. Like, it was what and what in the first half. The second half, LSU absolutely dominated the game start to finish. LSU outscored them 17-0. Total yards was 244 to 89. UCLA ran for 6 yards in the game. In the second half, you look at third down, LSU was 7 of 9. UCLA was 1 out of 5. LSU controlled the ball for 20 minutes. UCLA had it for 10. Like, everything flipped in the second half, and LSU completely controlled it. Whether that was because LSU made great halftime adjustments, I don't know. Whether that was because UCLA was scorched and out of gas because they were standing in the sun all day, I don't know. Whether that's just because LSU's way better than UCLA, I don't know. It was probably all of that kind of piled into one, and LSU controlled the game in the second half. So if you're an optimist, you could look at the second half and you could look at what LSU was able to do, and you can look at the stat sheet in totality, and you can go, oh, well, look, LSU out first down on 27-17. LSU was 67% on third down. UCLA was 42%. LSU outgained them by 165 yards. You could look at the whole game and go, that was really impressive that LSU just salted them away. You could also look at it and go, hey, this UCLA team sucks. Hunt told me that all week. Everybody said that all week. And we were tied with them at halftime, 17-17. That's unacceptable. And it's the same kind of thing that we talked about last week with South Carolina. You could have either said, gutty win to come back from 17 down, or you shouldn't be playing with your food against a bad South Carolina team. It just depends on what your outlook is. But LSU did get the win. And to me, the biggest story, and this is what I wrote my column on after the game, was that it felt like to me over the last 2 weeks that LSU is developing a second strength. You're looking for an identity in the team. And since the start of this season, when you went out to LA to play to Las Vegas to play Southern Cal, since the start of this season, you've known you can throw the ball. Garrett Nussmeier can sling it around. He's making great decisions. He's being very accurate. His wide receivers are making plays. His tight end is making plays. LSU's controlling the clock with the passing game. They're controlling possession. They're efficient. Like, everything is good in the passing game. They can very much do that. Do they run it great? Probably not. Do they stop the run great? Probably not. Do they stop the pass great? No. But there is one more strength that I'm picking up on. They can rush the passer. Bradyn Swinson was SEC Defensive Player of the Week last week for his 3-sack game. He had 2 more in this game. He was SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. You got Savion Jones back there with another sack. And LSU had 5 more in this game. And even in the first half, when Ethan Garbers was making some plays for UCLA, making some plays down the field, LSU was hitting him. That touchdown right before the half, like they popped him, but he made a pretty good play. They are rushing the passer, and that's going to be the identity of this team. They have real issues in coverage. You're not going to hear me dispute that. Y'all all heard me in camp come on here and yell and scream about how I thought they were suspect in coverage, and I think they are. But they can rush the passer. Bradyn Swinson can rush the passer. Savion Jones can rush the passer. Yes, it hurts not to have Harold Perkins, but Paris Shand can rush the passer from the interior. Whit Weeks can rush the passer. You've seen, Sage Ryan came on that blitz against South Carolina. And they were in Ethan Garber's face much of the night. And that's what they're going to try to do. The formula for this team is to throw the ball, complete a very high percentage of those, control the clock, put up points, get a lead, and then pin your ears back and go get the quarterback. It's hard for me to believe that this LSU team is going to be awesome against the run with true freshmen playing at defensive tackle and career backups. Like, it's hard for me to think that they're going to be a dominant front against the run. Now, you look at this game, the stats look really, really good against the run. They're helped out from sack numbers. But you held them to 0.6 yards per rush and 14 rushing yards if you take all the sack yardage out. You turned UCLA into a pass-only team, a one-dimensional team. You sent the pass rushers after Ethan Garbers, and you made plays. You forced a couple of fumbles. You forced him to flush out of the pocket and throw an interception. That was another play that Bradyn Swinson makes. You control the line of scrimmage with your pass rush, and UCLA didn't have an answer for it. And that, I think, is going to be what LSU attempts to do game in and game out. It's going to be tough. You got veteran quarterbacks that you're facing, and Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. Like, those guys are old. They've been around. You may see Graham Mertz. But I think LSU is proving itself to be a good pass rushing team. And you've got to have a second pitch here. LSU can't just be a team that can throw it, and that's it. I hope the running game progresses. I hope the young corners grow up. But right now, it's go rush the passer. And Blake Baker wants to do that. What's the one thing we've heard about Blake Baker since he got here? Like, they're going to be aggressive, and they want to get into that prowler package. And that prowler package is designed to do one thing. It is designed to go get the opposing passer. And Garbers had success early, no doubt about it. But in the second half, that success was fleeting. And you look at it in the second half, he was only able to throw for 83 yards in the second half. First half was rough. You let him throw for 198. And after a quarter of the game, UCLA didn't have a rushing yard. But I'm encouraged by that portion of what I saw in the game on Saturday. Bradyn Swinson is playing at an all-SEC level right now, and I think teams are going to have to start paying more attention to him, which could free up some opportunities for other people across the line of scrimmage. Brian Kelly talked about after the game that Kevin Peoples has done such a good job in coaching Swinson and in coaching Savion Jones because they're very different players. Swinson's closer to like 240, and Savion Jones is closer to like 275. Savion Jones is a big, big physical dude. And you look at Swinson, and he's a little lighter and a little bit more of a terror off the edge. But both those guys are complementing each other right now, and they're making a lot of plays in the backfield. We know that LSU had 9 tackles for loss and 5 sacks in the game against South Carolina, and then you fast forward to this one, you have 5 more sacks, and that's good stuff. You 5 more hurries, you forced a fumble, had the interception, as I mentioned. So I'm not ready to sit here and proclaim that LSU is some sort of title contender, some sort of playoff contender, and I understand some frustration with letting UCLA come in and hang around for 2 quarters. But I'm also looking at this from another perspective, and I'm kind of going, I knew this roster was a little bit limited entering the season, and I knew that they were going to have some of their issues on defense. But if they can develop, and this coaching staff can be what we think it is as far as elite talent recruiting and then the development that follows, I mean, Bo Davis and Kevin Peoples are coaching these guys up. And LSU did a better job against the run. No real explosive plays. And they did a really good job rushing the passer. We got to cover better. Got to cover better. But I thought it was okay. This may prove to be a weak win, and this may be a situation where moving forward you get exposed because you're beating up on some lesser teams. I'm not ready to declare that right now. I'll leave the window open for it. I'm not saying that's impossible. But to me, I thought it was a really good second half. I think you've got a true strength in your passing offense, a great quarterback who was SEC Offensive Player of the Week for his 32 for 44 effort, 352 yards and 3 touchdowns. We've kind of been desensitized, y'all, a little bit to the passing game because there was a time 5 years ago that I would have looked at that stat line, 32 for 44, that's 73%, for 352 and 3 touchdowns, and I'd have been digging through the record books to find out if this was the best passing performance in LSU history. I remember doing that after Joe Burrow left Texas. But now we're kind of desensitized to it because Joe did it 5 or 6 times, and Jaden did it 5 or 6 times, and now Garrett Nussmeier stepped up. And we've gotten to a point as LSU fans where we can look at a guy who has a 73% completion percentage on 44 throws, 352 yards and 3 touchdowns with no picks, and you're like, it's UCLA. They got to do better than that. It's like, whoa, kind of come up a little bit, and the reason for that is playing on Monday Night Football tonight with Jaden Daniels playing against Joe Burrow. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but. An uneven performance from LSU, not a 60-minute performance, but a really, really good 30-minute performance for LSU in the second half of that game against UCLA, and you did enough to get out of there and get the win. Now you got one more before what we've been talking about for, 3 weeks now? You got one more game, South Alabama. You win that one, put it away, get your treatment, rest up for a week, and then Ole Miss is going to come into Tiger Stadium, and it's going to be a hornet's nest. And we'll see if LSU can play with the Rebs a couple of weeks from now. 34-17, your final. LSU defeats UCLA. Tigers move to 3-1 on the season with South Alabama right around the corner in Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.